What's up, y'all? Monica McNutt here, and this is the Second Wind Podcast.
A super important part of your story that I feel like isn't highlighted enough is the struggle that you went through.
Two things happened to me in that season after those layoffs. You are faced with the fact that you don't control it. Small steps forward are still progress.
You had said before that you didn't feel like women were completely accepted in the sports media space. Do you still feel the same way?
I have been so fortunate, y'all. I don't have, and maybe I'm oblivious to, and people have protected me from. I don't have the crazy story of some dude looking at me telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about or that I did a bad job. Like, I don't have crazy stories. I have worked with incredible men.
Has this season solidified LeBron James as the best basketball player of all time?
He's incredible. But if you asked him, you want these individual accolades or a chance at another ring? Not a chance, another ring. You already know what the answer's gonna be. There is still something that is just undeniable about the standard of Michael Jordan.
Yo, before we get into this episode, want to give a big shout out to everybody that shows us love. Anybody that likes, comments, subscribes, that tells their friends about us. Listen, you guys give us the ability to continue to bring y'all great guests like the one that we have today, people who have second wins who might help you guys catch your second win as well. You never know when you're going to need to have that little pickup that you're going to need to listen to their stories to help you get over the hump. So with that being said, if you guys could do us a big favor, hit that subscribe button. It would really, really help us out. Appreciate you. Enjoy the show.
Second Win family, what is up? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Second Win Podcast. I am Jarvis with my co-host, of course, James, a.k.a. G.O. Please follow us on those socials or anything Second Win related. We appreciate that as well, like he said. With that being said, we have a very special guest today, someone who is dominating in her second wind as we speak. A former Georgetown alum, ESPN analyst, host, and reporter. Today we have on the multi-talented Monica McNutt. Thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. What an
course.
intro.
It's an honor.
Hey,
We gotta
practiced
give you the
that
flowers.
one. That was a good
was
job.
nice. Hey, I didn't fuck up that time. It was cool. Thank you for.
I feel loved.
Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, if you hear him call me Gio, that's just my nickname. My real name is James.
Got it.
Yeah.
Where'd Gio come from?
Gio is short for Great One. That's my nickname. I got it through a plethora of things that I've done across my friend group.
Thank you, Sharif, because I'm like, okay,
Tell the
keep
real.
talking.
No,
keep talking.
So I work with Say, right? And when we first, because I went to high school with him, when we first started working together, my mentor was like, yo, I really like how you got energy, like synergy with everybody. I'm gonna start calling you the Great One. I was like, bro, stop calling me that. That's weird as hell. So then we started going into like big time meetings, and I would go to introduce myself as James, and he would cut me off and he would say, that's the Great One. And I was like, bro, like this is weird. And then everyone just started calling me it. Then we went to a party. It was like Drake's first concert, or one of his first concerts that we went to in New York like 5 years ago. Him and the Migos, and we went to the after party afterwards, and I went to introduce myself as James, and Say cut me off. He was like, nah, that's the Great One. And Drake was like, I like it, the Great One. And he dapped me up, and then everybody just started calling me it afterwards. And that's
so what is the volume level? Because you exist on a 10, probably more.
What you mean?
Out of 10, the energy we just discussed, the Geo energy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Sure.
So what does it look like when you are taking time to recharge?
I don't take time to recharge.
That's a great question.
I think I recharge when I'm by myself, and when I'm with people, I like to give them energy.
So when you by yourself, are you talking to yourself or do you stop talking?
I stop talking. I'm in silence.
Get it.
Like there's days where I go like 15 hours just no words.
Okay, that's what I kind of anticipated.
Like you know what I mean? I gotta get it back. I gotta get it back
because it's up. So I was really curious how you
when it's
recharge.
down, yeah.
You just never know. Like when people were like, "Yo, bro, like I was having a hard day, and you made me laugh," type shit. I'd be like, "Damn,
hell yeah."
I 100% appreciate it.
You feel me?
But it needs to be recharged. I was asking.
You right.
100%.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Before we even get into it, we want to give you a big congratulations on being the Knicks' primary analyst. You know what I'm saying? Like that's big.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's even bigger because we did our research on you, and like just all the shit that you went through and like having to kick doors down, like it makes me feel proud. And I'm like, damn, she's doing it, man. She's doing it. I'm looking at your page. I'm like, she's doing it for real. Like,
and it's your energy. I love your energy. Like, I watch all your takes. Like, been researching. I'm like, your energy is just so contagious. So
I appreciate that, y'all.
No, for sure,
man.
So,
I gotta say though, I think the reception to me in these spaces has just blown my mind. Like, from what y'all are saying to people that hit me on the street, especially Knicks fans, because they are one loyal fan base. And when I first moved to New York, they call my name like I owe money. I'd be like, do I know you? Like, what's up? Because they see me on the street. But I think their reception, the way they have welcomed me, the feedback that I get when people tell me like, yo, looking at you is like looking at me, or where I want to be, or I'm so inspired by you, for whatever the reason may be. Like, and when I meet people, I'm like, I genuinely appreciate that, and I feel that. So I've been very, very thankful.
Of course, yes,
yeah,
man.
that's dope. That authenticity is like
contagious.
You can feel that. You know what I'm saying? When you meet somebody and they real and they're themselves in every room, you like, I like that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that.
Real.
Just because this generation and this day and age, everyone's trying to be somebody else. And when you meet somebody that's always themselves, you like, I bang with that person.
One of one.
That's it. I like the way you put that.
So just we're gonna start it from the beginning. Just want to take it back a little bit. So basketball obviously has been a huge part of your life, right? So at an early age, you talked about how in third grade you started to take basketball serious, and you approached your dad about, this is what I want to do. Whether that was you watching him ref games or him taking you to games. Can you please enlighten us on the impact that your dad had while pushing you to be the best basketball player you could be at that early age?
You know, I think as a third grader, you don't get it. You just see something that you want to do, right? And you know how to do it, Dad. Let's figure it out together.
Right.
I don't think that any of the lessons of basketball began to click in my mind probably till at least high school. Certainly more so post it all, like after college, trying to get into this space. But early on, I think for me, the biggest example for young people and kids in particular is what they see. And so my parents were diligent people. They were workers. Before I picked up basketball, the rule in our house was if you start something, you're going to finish it. We're not quitting. You may not go back to it, but you're not going to finish it. I mean, you're not going to quit it. You're going to finish it. And so for me, what I thought was just bonding and developing a craft and a love for the game ultimately is an example of fortitude, right? And an example of staying the course that paid dividends down the long run. But I don't think there was ever like a conversation with either of my parents in terms of what we're teaching you. It was just actions and actions and actions. And then beyond that, when it got to, you know, high school, working out in the gym, playing pickup with guys, like, or even my dad having conversations with other referees or as he was coaching, I was never silenced. If I had a question, like, I was welcome into the conversation. Like, I always remember my dad, after we would work out on Saturday mornings, the guys would come in, the Marla Heights Rec Center in PG County, and he'd be like, she can play, but we playing with a girls' ball. And at the time, I'm like, my dad's like, you bums, y'all already did whatever y'all gonna do. She has a future. Like, we're not messing up her jump shot.
Right.
And thankfully, those guys would be like, all right, bet. And we'd play however many games because it was the end of my workout until they came in. But I've just had example of men that were willing to stand with you and for you, like in the space, in the action, in terms of trying to grow in the game of basketball.
Yeah. Having your dad kind of by your side, sometimes it's like when your parents or coach, it could be, they're 10 times harder on you. Is that how it was like for you?
I don't know because I don't have anything to compare it to. He was just my dad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, that makes sense.
And my dad wasn't our head coach of our AAU team. He was an assistant. And my head coach at the time, we were all learning from him, including my dad. I think my dad being my coach meant I couldn't hide. He was with me in the drill when I got to that AAU team that my best friend used to crush me on, like, and I was in tears because I couldn't get this rebounding drill. Like, I'm the new kid on the team. I'm getting skunked. He was there, and I was frustrated when we got home, but he was there. So he witnessed when nobody being unfair. You just got terrible technique. You're going to have to keep working at it, right? Like, I couldn't go to him and tell him about a big bad wolf, whether it was a teammate or a coach, because he was there. He witnessed it all, and that wasn't the case. So I guess on the one hand, it was incredibly supportive because he could look and watch and say, all right, let's try this when we go home. Let's practice it. I know exactly what you need to practice. But on the flip side, it was like, you blew that. I watched you blow it, or I watched you not focus when you should have been paying attention.
Right. I think that's the dopest thing too, because you have that support, but you also got that person holding you accountable.
Right. It's the accountability.
Like, I think you have someone that's holding you accountable. that's with you every day. You, like you said,
Right.
you can't hide. You can only grow. If that's what you really want to do, like you said. So that's definitely important.
Yeah, and as you continue to grow your game, you became an elite prospect, right? You end up going to Georgetown now. Big East basketball is no joke, right? So back
then it was
oh my gosh,
very important.
Yeah,
distinction.
back then,
Big East was that
for
conference.
sure. So what was that experience like those 4 years that you were there, and then what was it like where you had to make up your mind, like, okay, I'm not going to play in WNBA and I'm not going overseas. I have to start doing something else. Like, what was that like walking away from the game that you've been playing your whole life? Like, that's almost ingrained in your head for all of us, like athletes.
Yeah.
I love to hear this answer because you do this for, like, you're programmed to do this forever.
Talk about it.
What was that? You know what I'm saying? What was that like?
All right, so first part of the question, Georgetown was incredible. Some of my closest friends are my teammates. I'm still in touch with those coaches. I remember in the recruiting process, my mom really wanted me to go to Princeton. She was like, "You could get just this degree, blah blah blah."
That's
I'm
always
like,
what
the
it
mom
is.
answer.
Right.
That's always
the
what
mom
it is.
answer.
I'm like, "Mom, Georgetown degree is nothing to sneeze at, first of all. And
Right.
second, like, I want to play ball for real. Like, the Ivy League gets one league in the tournament. Like, no."
Right.
And so I actually, on my recruiting visit, got a chance to sit down with Big John, God rest his soul. And I remember him asking me where else I was being recruited, and I told him my mom wanted me to go to Princeton. He was kind of like, "You don't want to go there, do you?" And that was probably the first time that someone said to me, you know, a Georgetown degree is going to open doors, but beyond that, the basketball will open doors.
Yeah.
And you don't have to let it define you when it deflates. Like he not infamously, but he famously kept that notorious basketball in his office. So just being blown away by his sheer presence as someone that I knew my dad had admired. My dad was actually at St. Anthony's High School when he was still coaching high school ball there, right before he went to college. So it was just this culmination of all these things that I had like seen and been a part of as a kid. So that was super dope. I go on to have a pretty solid career at Georgetown, but I think the biggest thing that I probably take away from my career at Georgetown is the details of leadership and the details of communication. Two of my teammates, they're now married, but I will never forget me walking into some meeting. Felicia Hall Allen came and spoke to our team. It was one of those team building things.
Yeah.
And so afterward, I'm like, "I'm nice. What are y'all talking about?" And my teammate looked at me and was like, "No, you're not nice. Like, you're not nice at all." Now, we're friends, and so the evolution of the word nice, we have conversations about that all the time. But they were probably the first people that caused me to be introspective in terms of how am I communicating with my teammates.
Yeah.
Because whether you like or dislike the word nice, we have to be able to communicate effectively.
Right.
And so they were the first people that really caused me to evaluate myself as a leader and a communicator. Because you can think I used great words, that speech was great, but if it didn't connect, then like, what's the point,
It
right?
didn't do the job.
You know what I'm saying? So that is probably one of the bigger lessons that I take from my time on campus. And of course, I mentioned I still have great friends. Gio, when it was time to hang it up.
Right.
It's like a death. It's like a death.
That's this.
First of all,
Oh, my Lord.
before it was time to hang it up, my senior year, basketball season ends when you go to the tournament in March. January, I probably started crying like every practice, every game.
You're
like,
you want the
just the
emotional
thought of
teammates.
it.
Just
You want the
emotional, right?
Yeah.
And my dad didn't really meddle. He's like, "You wanted to go up there, do your thing." But I remember, I can't remember if Terry, our head coach, showed me or he showed me. Somebody showed me a conversation between my dad and my head coach. And he knew. He was like, "Leave her alone. She's just emotional. It's coming to an end.
Right,
She's
right.
giving it her all." Because they was kind of like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah, for
So
sure.
one of my assistants, who I love, Keith Brown, he was like, "Can't say nothing to you because you're going to start crying about the end of
Right.
everything. Like, what am I supposed to do? We trying to win ball games." And I was like, "I know I'm going to go play hard, but like, it's ending." So it was a mess, in a good way. You poured so much of your life into it.
Yeah,
You
every
can't,
day,
you know
every
what I mean?
hour. That's
Waking
how
up early, lifting weights.
I mean,
like
this is third grade. My dad and I are going to the gym every Saturday. Like,
Dang.
it has been so much a part of my life,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, once I cleared all the emotions, I knew very clearly that I wasn't trying to keep playing either.
Why?
Because I didn't want to come back from overseas at 28, 27 and just be starting in the workforce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
that makes sense.
So, and my dad tells me that now. He's like, "I was very surprised at how clear you were in that aspect." And I didn't remember being that clear, but my dad was like, "No, you said it very clearly. Like, I'm not coming back to the States at 27 and being in my first job, like behind the 8 ball."
Yeah.
So for me, coming off of our NCAA tournament run, we lose to
Sweet
UConn by
16.
6. Like, coming off that, we had a little bit of buzz. And if nothing else, I knew that you had to advocate for yourself. So I'm just telling folks, like, I want to get into media. And so that's kind of how that started. But there's nothing, and y'all know, y'all competed.
Yeah.
There is nothing I miss more than the camaraderie of a locker room.
That's what I'm saying. It's
of
different.
competing, like being able to physically compete, and ain't nobody calling HR or or you know what I'm saying? Like, I miss that to this day.
It's like you going to war with your teammates because y'all know what y'all went through in them practices, them grueling days, them lists.
Suffrage is a thing.
Sure.
You go through something with someone, y'all bonded forever.
For sure. I mean, and not to mention that, like, you're in the best shape of your life, and now I'm like, why do these pants fit like this? But whatever.
Facts.
You know, a super important part of your story that I feel like isn't highlighted enough is the struggle that you went through. Because people see that, you're doing well for yourself right now, but it wasn't always like this. You talked about a time where you were laid off twice in 3 years, and like you looked at your W-2s and you were like, damn, I only made $25,000. Like,
legit.
How did that happen? You had to go back and regroup with your parents at their crib. Like, talk about that experience, because I think that's important for people to realize that you don't start at the top of the mountain. Like, you
sure
gotta
don't.
grind. You gotta grind to get there.
Yeah. So I think you're spot on in that it's important for people to know that. But I also think as athletes, when you get out into the workforce, the math is no longer the same as an athlete.
Yeah.
Right? You're deficient in this skill, go work on said skill, prove that you can do it, the opportunity is going to come. When I started chasing my career in broadcast media, that is not the math at all. You are far more beholden and subject to the opinions of those around you and the decision makers. There's no shot clock. There's no clear rule book. Like, you're just beholden to all this stuff. And so I can remember very early on being incredibly frustrated because my life up until that point had relatively been formulaic. This is what you want to do? Go to the gym with dad on Saturday, pour my heart and soul into it, get better. Boom, I'm going to have the opportunity.
Black and white.
And while I was trying to get the reps, early on, the opportunity didn't seem like it was coming. And then, not to fast forward to the layoffs, like, I'd had reps in reputable cities and the opportunity still wasn't coming. Like, the math made zero sense to me. And so I think for me, two things happened to me in that season after those layoffs. One, it was like, get back down to the foundation in terms of the faith, right? Like, you are faced with the fact that you don't control it. You just don't control it. Damn, right?
That hit me right there.
And so that was very, very humbling and so very important, and I'm very thankful for that season. But beyond that, it was small steps forward are still progress.
Absolutely. All the wins. Stacking wins.
Right. Just little ones. And I can remember in that time my mom saying to me, just count your no's. You only need one yes. Like, your no's are your ladder to your yes.
We say that all the time.
Right?
Every day.
And I think, I don't know. Y'all know. Y'all have been through your various journeys, right? Like, it's one thing to hear it, like, insert favorite comedian, actor, athlete saying it. It's another thing to be in it.
Living it.
When you're in the thick of it,
like, in it.
Think of it.
Yeah.
Like, in it. When I pulled up that W-2 that said $25,000, I'm like, how?
Right.
And so I can remember in that moment being sort of overwhelmed with gratitude because in the midst of that, I was never hungry. I was never cold. I was never on the streets. Like, I was kept. And that was so beautiful and humbling for me. But I think we are adverse outside of what we do to train as athletes. We are kind of adverse to discomfort.
Right.
And I think we got to break out of that.
Yeah.
At large, as a society, as a generation, like, that is when you do your best work, your most growth.
And your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
Shit.
If you're not comfortable, you're not growing. That won't make you grow if you're comfortable.
Yeah. And I think you don't even realize how creative. I don't want to necessarily use the word strong because I don't know that it's about strength, but you don't realize how resilient or how passionate you are about something until the options are so limited.
Yep.
Like, I can remember getting on Indeed, like, okay, well, the bill's not stopping because my career dream's not stopping, but, like, physically feeling sick about trying to apply to, like, a 9-to-5. You know what I mean? Like, that's not where I'm supposed to be.
Been there.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Preaching right now.
Been there.
Damn
You
it.
talking that
you
shit.
preaching for real.
I've been there. It's like, yo, what the fuck do I do? Do I
been on the joint
keep
like
chasing this?
fool.
Or it's like,
oh my God.
But I think in that, and y'all can attest to this too, for me, and I hope that y'all agree, it all works out.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't see it while you're in it, but it all works out. I had no idea that I was going to get laid off and be back in my parents' house when my grandmother got sick, my aunt got sick, my dad got sick, like with no job and nothing to do but support my family. But in that season, that was the most important place I could have possibly been, right? The opportunity to play in an alumni league with my friends from Georgetown, like to kick it with my goddaughter, to kick it with my grandparents who are now no longer with us, like to have this abundance of time that wasn't devoted to a career, but was devoted to the people that had nurtured me and helped me become who I am.
That matter.
Right?
It's perspective.
So in the big picture, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.
Damn.
That's what you live by. You always where your feet are. That's where you need to be. I believe that too.
You have to.
You do. And obviously, you know, you're not in that situation anymore, right? You've grown. So you've grown so much in your journalism career. You ended up being with ESPN, earning that job in 2019. And like I said, you've been on TV with the biggest names, whether that's Stephen A., Perk, Malika, being an analyst with Mark Jackson and Mike Breen. Like, how does it feel, one, to have your own recognition, and two, be on TV with some of the biggest names in TV?
I sometimes think this might come back to haunt me one day. But I don't do what I do to be on TV, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
The game of basketball has given me so much, and I enjoy the game, the people that play the game, the conversations about the game. And now, of course, we're also in a climate where it's not just what's happening in that rectangle, the conversations about the lives and who is impacted, particularly when you start talking about women's sports. I have thoroughly enjoyed the recognition, and I have been overwhelmed by the reception. But at the same time, like, if I go call basketball on radio and y'all don't see me no more, like, I'm just as happy.
You're just as happy, right?
You know, like,
right.
You know what I mean? I think, and I get it. Like, we all got brands. I don't do what I do to be seen, but I am proud to represent. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So that's a bar.
So for
Might
you,
tweet that later.
Right.
So for you personally, when is you are the happiest, right? You put in all this work. You were down, you worked, you got your reps in, like you said, and now you're at a platform where everyone's seeing you. You're getting the benefits of your work. Everyone's giving you flowers, right? And you said if you weren't on TV, you would still be just as happy. So for you, how did you find that level of what?
The year I grossed 25 grand, like, I've been without it. And I was good. I was capped. Like, when I tell y'all I was filling out an application once my body cooperated to go teach high school English and coach girls basketball, like, legit. If tomorrow something happened, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to go coach girls basketball and maybe teach English or vice versa, whatever it is. Like, to me, this thing is so much more about impact.
Absolutely.
And the lives that we can touch and the impressions that we can make. Joy also, to me, is something that's internal. And I've been without all of this. And I was okay. Now, I'm not saying that I want to go back.
No, for sure.
But you feel me? Yeah. Like, I think a simple life can be beautiful. It can be private. It can be lived on a salary less than what I'm, making now. Like, so I'm good. Like, I'm good. I'm very grateful for what I get to do and the lives I get to touch. But I can be grateful and impactful without all this as well.
But I feel like that's value. You know what I'm saying? The values that you put in the perspective, because not everyone's like that. There's some people that be in your position, that will be in your position, and they're not happy. I need more. I've been a victim of that. Like, whether you do good things, but you don't give yourself the credit, I need more. Instead of just being where your feet are and be like, well, I'm just happy. I'm enjoying the journey. Yeah. Even if I didn't have it, I'd still be happy. Yeah. So I've been in that same situation.
But Jarvis, okay, so you've been there. So I do think it's important to clarify, I am ambitious.
For sure.
And I have goals and I have things that I hope to accomplish in this career. But as I've knocked various goals off the wall, there's this sentiment of like, all right, now what? And not now what in terms of the next goal, but like, I did that. And it was fulfilling when I achieved it, but like, what's the legacy? What's the impact? You know what I mean? Right. And so I just think for me, and I say this all the time now, I just turned 34 and it probably took me till about my 31 to get it. I'm building a life and not just a career. So where am I happiest? On the beach, like with my family, with my people. I'm just as happy on the court, but I think the other part that we don't necessarily talk about is the stamina that's required to maintain your dreams once you start to achieve them.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Gosh,
the Garden, on this podcast, wherever I'm at, like, I love being on the basketball court. Do I necessarily love 3 games in the span of 5 days, 9 days road trip? Like, sometimes I got to remind myself I'm living a dream. Happiest, peaceful, recharging. Oh, put me on a beach. Like, put me on a beach.
So, like you asked him, how do you recharge?
I'm very deliberate when I say I'm doing nothing. That's not for you to fill up my calendar.
Oh, that's true, because she told me that the other day.
Yeah.
She said not that day, because that's my day to do nothing.
Yeah.
When I was trying to book the bar.
I'm doing nothing.
You need that, though.
You do. And I think for me, if I could add a tentacle to what I'm doing now, it would definitely be conversations about wellness and self-care in a way that is attainable. Because I think there's this wellness self-care that is attached to your income and is highfalutin, and you got to have a relative level of affluence. I think stillness, my grandmother always says, just have a cup of tea, turn everything off. Like taking time to just be, to breathe, like breathe properly. We can get into a whole conversation about breathing exercises. I'm very deliberate about taking time to take care.
I love that. I love how you are just unapologetically yourself in every room, like we talked about before. Like you show up as yourself all the time. Where does that confidence come from?
I'd have to give that one to my parents. But the other part is through a little trial and error. I'm bad at being anybody else.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we all go through that in our preteens, teens, maybe a little into our 20s of trying to fit. And I was just bad at being anybody other than me.
Yeah.
And so my parents have always spoken life and affirmed and put us in positions where we were celebrated as women, as Black people, as athletes. And so I don't know how to be anybody but me.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that too.
We've had successful Black women on this podcast, and they've talked about how they've been in situations where people have tried to transform them. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you're like, nah, I'm not doing that, or I am doing that?
Yeah, I think about this a lot because I hear some of the stories of Black women, of women in sports, and I'm not gonna say that my path has been a crystal stair, but I don't feel that. And maybe I'm oblivious to it in a good way.
Yeah.
But I really don't feel that. The biggest thing that I have gotten through my career consistently, which I accept as feedback and is something that I'm constantly working on, is to slow down when I'm talking. But like, I cannot point to a time where someone in a position of power wanted to change me. Have I had some conversations about understanding maybe how I present or why I present? Yeah, but I really cannot point to a time. My agent, my former agent, who I love, who's a woman, KB, she was like, as we were sort of moving out of smaller market into ESPN, she said to me, you don't have to dress like a 40-year-old white woman. And I was like,
oh, damn. Like,
right.
That's crazy. No, that's crazy.
You think, right? And I think she and I ascended as I was starting to do things or met as I was starting to ascend and do stuff in New York. So she didn't realize that when I first got into the business and it was local news, here I came with this short hair already and probably some bright lipstick. So let me put on a basic sheath dress that is what you wear in local news. And so while that comment took me back,
hurts my feelings a little bit.
It did hurt my feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
It also was sort of empowering to go ahead and lean in the next chapter. But I think you gotta earn your credibility.
Absolutely.
Right? And we, I can remember the Twitter or X thing that kind of went viral about free internships. Y'all remember that a few years back? It was like right around the pandemic. There was like this whole conversation, and there was another woman, I want to say she works for Fox, but she like tweeted something to the effect of the importance of like the free internships.
Yeah.
And it sort of it came this dialogue, which rightfully so, about the privilege of being able to take a free internship. I can't necessarily say you should or shouldn't. You got to do things that work for your life and your goals. What I can say is that you do have to earn the credibility in the space.
Absolutely.
However that looks,
For
right? Sure. And so if the free doesn't work for you, fine. If you have the capacity to do something free, then cool. Like I worked for free because to me there was a value attached to it that wasn't just monetary. Will I work for free now? It depends.
Nah, not free no more.
It depends on what the cause is.
And that goes back to what you were saying before, like even having those opportunities to get those reps.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like people could want to work, but if they don't have those opportunities or those doors are closed, it's not going to happen. So that leads me into my next question. And why?
It is improving. Here's where it gets interesting for me, y'all. I am a rational former athlete. If somebody says to me, you never played in the NBA. We don't want your opinion. Cool. I actually have the capacity to respect that. I would say, though, I have worked diligently to be prepared to talk about this in a way that is both entertaining and educating. And so if your thought process is that only NBA players can tell you about the NBA, that's your loss. But I'm going to carry on.
That's a damn good perspective.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think when I say that, I look at my colleague at ESPN, Mina Kimes, right? Like, the Twitter will get ablaze depending on whether or not you think she's a solid NFL analyst.
Yeah.
I think Mina is incredible. And as a woman, I know that when Mina says she saw XYZ on film, she legit saw that on film. Like, she was studying that, as am I. You know what I mean? And so I think there is still an extra layer that women have to go to continue to prove themselves, particularly when you wear a label like analyst. But again,
That's dope.
but as a former athlete, as a woman, if somebody said that to me, I'm like, all right, that's cool.
But at the end of the day, no one can take away. Like, you played high level ball,
Right.
regardless whether you play high level, you know ball.
Right.
It's like the same thing when I see JJ Redick. Like, who the fuck gonna tell JJ
Right.
Redick he don't know ball? He
Right.
played.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, like, you still know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So you can't discredit that. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, whether it's JJ Redick talking to someone who's never played, JJ Redick has a point of view. Like, yo, he's done it at a very high
Right.
level. You played ball at a very high level. So you're seeing things that if you ain't never played ball,
Right.
you're not gonna know what I'm talking
Right.
about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And to that point, Jarvis, like, there's probably a detail that JJ would pick up that I wouldn't pick up. But the thing about me is I have no shade or no shame about still learning.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm 100% learning. When I've just had a game with JJ and RJ. Am I picking their brain? Absolutely. Like,
Right.
are we having basketball conversations? If I don't know something, am I pulling up to Rick Brunson when we are heading back? Like, yo, this is what I wrote down. Like, what's happening here? I am constantly learning. And I think for me, it goes back to that communication thing, right? What I am most proud of as a communicator that happens to talk about hoops is the ability to connect. And that includes I'm learning just like you.
Being
Now,
a
if you
sponge.
want to go, if you want the analyst that's a professor and
Right.
not having no fun, cool. I'm not your cup of tea.
I'm not that,
But
yo.
ain't no sweat off my back because we don't fit. Like, fit is a neutral concept. We not all gonna work.
You a sponge.
Hello.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Can I get 2 Whopper Junior meals? Damn, $18. Do y'all have like payment plans, like layaway, like anything like that? Y'all don't got that? Where I could pay like maybe $5 right now, like $10 in a week or something like that?
Laraway at a fast food spot? Come on, bro. I've never seen or heard that in my life. That's crazy.
Yeah, bro, like my pockets is hurting right now. I'm down bad.
What you need to do is get on Prize Picks, bro. That's what you need to do if you down bad like that.
Bro, I ain't messing with no Prize Picks, boy. What I look like?
Ah, let's go, man. Another win. Another win. That's like my 6-1 all week. Prize Picks, man. I told Gio get on Prize Picks. It's the best one to use. It's another win. Let's go.
Man, there's no way this dude just hit on Prize Picks again. He's up like 5,000 on the week. Damn. Man, let me see how lucky I can get using this Prize Picks Jarvis keeps talking about. Shoot. Hopefully it can get me a little bit of money so I could get rich.
I never been on a jet before I started using Prize Picks. Shoot, I couldn't afford anything before I started using Prize Picks. Hit a couple more on the passing yards, a little less on the rushing yards. Next thing you know, I'm on a jet. I'm trying to make sure everybody eats. Go to prizepicks.com/Mercury and use code Mercury to get a $100 deposit on your first deposit. That's a free $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/Mercury and use code Mercury to get $100 on your first deposit. You never know what that $100 is going to turn into. It could turn into this.
Holiday season, my mom sends me to the grocery store to get all these groceries. This is the last thing I want to do during the holidays. I'd rather spend some time with my family, chill and relax. I need to get HelloFresh. It's much faster, 15 minutes to make, and it comes right to your front door. I don't even have to stay in line and do all this shopping.
Man, fast food is so good, but it's so bad for you. I gotta get on that HelloFresh that Gio was talking about. It's way cheaper and way healthier for you. I'm about to call this dude right now.
If you don't want to deal with what we just went through, go to HelloFresh.com/secondwinfree and get free breakfast for life.
Hold on. Did you just hear what he said? For life. That's one breakfast item per box for every active subscription. Please, it's for free for the rest of your life.
Wait, hold on. I don't think they heard you. For life. That's for the duration of the time you alive. You're gonna get free breakfast. Go to HelloFresh.com/secondwinfree and use code secondwinfree to get free breakfast for life.
Life.
Jumping into college basketball, female college basketball, women's college basketball, it wasn't as big back when you played with the NIL and the social media and all that stuff. Now it's getting to the point where it's starting to grow a little bit, and I think that's largely in part due to the tournament last year. I think the tournament had more views. The women's tournament had more views than the men's tournament last year, and Flage and Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and Haley Van Lith and Aaliyah Boston, like they're bucket getters, right? And I thought that was beautiful. Where do you see the trajectory of women's basketball going, and like how do you feel about the state that it's currently in?
Well, I am really excited about the current state that they're still buying, because I think that the spike in interest, maybe not interest, but the spike in sponsorship dollars, you could probably still track back to our alleged racial reckoning during COVID, right? Like when we're having all these conversations about marginalized communities and minority groups and how we support and how we're better. So I'm actually really, really excited that that window still seems to be open when it comes to women's sports. In fact, I think the window has probably grown. I'm a basketball lover. Basketball is obviously top of the line, but you look at what the NWSL is doing, you look at what AU Hoops is offering in both basketball, softball, like there is a push. I am excited that folks seem to now understand that it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about good business because there's an audience, there's an appetite, and these women are phenomenal when you look across college basketball, women's college basketball. This season alone, like how many upsets did we have to start the season? Like
right off
we've been wanting parity for so long, and it seems like we are getting there with it. So I'm really excited about that part. I also think that this generation of athletes, this generation of young people, they are so incredible.
Incredible.
Like,
I was
so
just gonna
incredible.
say that. Like the fresh Juju Watkins,
Talented.
she is tough.
Super.
The girl Fulwiley from South Carolina, she got the ball on the string. I'm watching because I didn't watch women's college basketball
like the
before.
past 2-3 years.
But now I'm locked in and I'm like, yo, she's a bucket. She's serious. So I'm like, I was just about to say that, like the freshmen and everyone else, like I'm just watching it so much more intensely, and I'm like, this is crazy.
Well,
like, I never realized that.
We're talking about the basketball of it all, but I just mean as people too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I can remember having this conversation with Clint Portis when we had a podcast together. He was kind of out on NIL because he felt like from his experience as a pro, once you throw money on it, things get complicated. Right? And I'm like, I hear you on that, but in the same way that you have strength and conditioning, academic tutors, nutritionists, put somebody on staff to help these young people navigate the financials. And that, in fact, is what has happened, whether you call it the folks at the universities have hired or the agents that these young people have. But I just think that their capacity to be great athletes, to be great people, to be willing to lend their voices to the causes that matter to them, a tip of the cap.
So you were a baller, and you, like you said, I gotta ask this question, man. I'm from Connecticut, so you played UConn back in the day, and obviously UConn women's basketball has been a powerhouse. You think that dynasty is over? Paige being hurt, her coming back. Like, do you think they're still the top dog?
This current season, or is the dynasty over?
Dynasty over.
I don't think the dynasty is over, no. There's still such an incredible tradition, and even if the dynasty is down, can you imagine what it looks like to be the kid that brings the dynasty back?
Facts.
Right.
The opportunity there.
To play for Gino?
Hello?
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
And I get it. Whether you're a Gino, Kim, Dawn, who else is out there? Lisa Booter at Iowa. Whoever your preference is, like, cool. All of these people are rich in basketball knowledge, and they have been able to connect with their athletes over time. But I think UConn might be down this year, especially with the injury to AZ Fudd, who's from the DC area. Hated to hear that. They might be a little bit down. But even down for them is an Elite Eight type of program.
Yeah, they just use the championships. That's all. No, for sure.
So no, I think that is an entity that will remain intact.
Jumping into the Knicks. Where do you see the Knicks playing out in this Eastern Conference? You got the Celtics, obviously, the Sixers. Like, there's so many good teams. Where do you see this Knicks team falling? Bucks. Yeah, shit. They got Dame. Like, where do you see this Knicks team?
You can see there's like a million things going through her head right now, like,
because it's tough. There's a lot of competition.
This is what I will say about the Knicks. Jalen Brunson should be all NBA and an All-Star this year. I don't even want to discuss it. There's nothing to discuss there.
Hands down.
I think that the Knicks, because of their makeup as a team, they are going to have to be so sharp by the time you get to April and going into the postseason. They got to be clicking on all cylinders with their most efficient basketball possible. That, to me, puts them still similar 4. Last year they finished 5th going into the playoffs. But they could be the 4th best team in the East. I'm very confident in that. And there's a world in which things shake out if they're playing their best ball. I see them at 3. My concern for them is the teams ahead of them in the East can out-athlete them. And they have very clear closers.
Facts.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened when they ran into the Bucks first game of the in-season tournament. They will play the Bucks in the first game of the knockout round in the in-season tournament coming up. But terrific game, 4th quarter. I want to say 6 minutes to go. It's a 6-point game. And then Dame closes.
They got dudes who's give the ball to him and he gonna finish it.
Who's the next close? I would say Brunson, right?
Yes. Most of the time. It should be.
Right, yeah. Because I got the Celtics. I don't know about him, but I got the Celtics winning the chip. I just think all around defensively, they just got. And I think Porzingis is a big reason why I think they're going to win the chip.
Drew as well.
Yeah, Drew Holiday.
They're
play
tough.
Defense.
They're tough.
What
for
you
sure.
What you think?
The chip? I don't know.
What do you
Bro,
think?
I think Denver is a well-oiled machine.
I'm with you on that.
Huh?
I'm with you on that.
Denver.
Like, I just feel like when it gets down to it, like, Jamal Murray and Jokic is just, bro, it's poetry in motion.
Yeah,
Not even that, but all the things that they do offer them to, it's, man.
What I will say, though, is even I kind of underestimated what a healthy Kristaps Porzingis looks like.
Mm-hmm.
He is a problem. A
Yeah.
7-footer that can
serious.
shoot the 3
Yeah.
and play defense.
Yeah. And then I wonder, the addition of Drew Holiday, is he the piece that gets them over the hump in terms of experience?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Celtics, I mean, they've been in the finals, right? Like, they've very good team, had a lot of success, can't get over whatever the proverbial hump is.
Mm-hmm.
Denver, Boston, sounds about right to me.
So what do you think the Knicks need to win the chip?
A guy.
Like a what? Tatum, a Bron, a Luka, like
Like
No.
a legit
I
what's
superstar.
what's a guy? What's a guy?
A guy.
In your opinion, like what's a guy look like?
They need the NBA prototype 2-3 to me.
Mhm.
I would take a stretch 4, a true stretch 4, a stretch 5,
Mhm.
like somebody that can shoot 3, Brook Lopez type of guy. But to me, they're missing your NBA prototype that I don't even want to say 3 and D because they've had variations of that and they're no longer on the roster. But like the guy that can go get a bucket
Facts.
easily,
Easily.
a bucket and 4 dribbles or less.
Yes.
Like Book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a guy, like the prototype guy. Book is a little tricky because he ain't trying to defend, and that's Tibbs. Although, let me take that back because statistically, Book has improved as a defender. But they need a guy that can go. It's just so difficult. Even Jalen, All NBA, All Star, all the things. But even for him, it's tough to get a basket. Like he's crafty, he's worked on it, he gets to his spots, but it's tough.
3 dribbles or less.
I need a 3 dribbles or less guy can get to the rim or step back, like whatever it is, but is going to score 3 dribbles or less.
That's hard.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It's hard.
So we have a couple hot topics,
Oh,
right? And we want to hear your opinions on them. Feel free. If you don't want to answer them, you don't have to.
plead the fifth.
Okay. First one. Has this season solidified LeBron James as the best basketball player of all time? He's averaging 25, 8, and 7, and he's top 5 in fourth quarter scoring. So, from your opinion, what do you think? Is this
And he's
GOAT?
old as hell.
Yeah, he's doing it he's doing it at an age and level that no one's seen. Some people got their GOAT, but like
You don't seem like you.
what you
think
think?
You agree?
What you think? Is he the GOAT?
The
Or
mine?
your? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know
the
people
or
got
mine.
but what we arguing? We arguing facts or opinion or opinion.
Factually, he obviously will have achieved individual accolades that we have not seen
Ever. For sure.
How do you measure success in the game of basketball?
Impact on and off the court.
Doesn't that look like championships?
Championships matter, but LeBron has won everywhere he's ever been. Michael Jordan three-peated, left. That team still went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Every team LeBron has left, asked the next year.
How many chips Bron got?
What, 4? And he's been to how many finals? He ran the finals for a decade straight.
Here's my thing. LeBron James has fundamentally changed the game of basketball.
He's never seen anyone like him.
Yeah.
He arguably, I will call him. Now we got to get into the minutia of like basketball players score
For sure.
this, that, all
For
that, right?
sure, yeah.
There's nothing Bron can't do.
Could play all 5.
Incredible facilitator, can play all 5, can guard all 5.
Mm-hmm.
I am still, as antiquated as some folks may argue, willing to go to the rings because that is what we talk about forever.
So if we arguing rings, then Bill Russell got to be the GOAT.
That's fair, and I knew that was coming up too, but I'm
He
not going to go there
You know what I'm
because
saying? Like, when we arguing, you know what I'm saying?
But yeah, that's a whole different style of basketball and all that good
But
stuff.
Michael ain't never played a Giannis. Michael ain't never played a
Listen,
Steph.
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
I hear you 100%. And this is why, to me, like, I love when we have these conversations on First Take, then you get your mentions and people really mad. Like, it's just a conversation.
No, for
Right,
sure.
right.
I totally am with you
Nah.
on. We can make the case for all of it, right?
Absolutely.
But I do think contemporary basketball, if I may take Bill Russell out of contemporary basketball,
He was playing against our mailman, for
right?
sure.
Contemporary basketball, there is still something that is just undeniable about the standard of Michael Jordan.
So you talking about like the
undeniable.
winning passion, the will to win, the leader, like what what goes into that?
I think I think it just comes in the rings. If we go contemporary, we take Bill out of the conversation because that picture on his book with all his rings, like I get it. I think it just comes down to the rings, to winning. Because even the other day, after LeBron and them got smoked by Philly, and he's asked about the new individual accolades, he don't want to talk about that.
Facts.
And to me, LeBron is probably the most deliberate and diligently crafted media personality beyond just basketball player. So he knew that if he's celebrating that individual accolade after getting smoked, that's going to be the headline.
Yeah, it's going to make him look bad.
He's very right. And so I think even he would say, to a degree, he's accomplished incredible things and he has changed the game. And like when he patted himself on the back in his podcast after the 3-1 comeback, he's incredible. But if you asked him, you want these individual accolades or a chance at another ring? Not a chance, another ring. You already know what the answer going to be.
No, for sure. And I do think, like, in my opinion, I think, like I said, he's been to the finals so many times. I think he should have had that 6. You know, there's a couple finals that he lost, you know. But, like, if we're talking debating, this would be my last thing on this, like, Michael wasn't expected to be Michael. No one expected Michael.
I hear you on that.
LeBron's been in the spotlight since he was
since
he was 15, and he's beyond expectations. So I think it's like I said, we could argue that all day. There's just two different scopes. I feel like Michael came in and they were like, yo, who the fuck is this kid from UNC? You know what I'm saying? This raw athletic kid, and then LeBron is like, if he was gonna be a bust if he didn't do what he did. Yeah,
and he has exceeded all expectations. Like he could have had a far lesser career and still been.
So he won 6 rings. Is he the GOAT?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Easy.
Okay.
Like I would be like, what are you talking about? No, we're not like
that's all I
we're
wanted
not
to know.
having this conversation anymore.
For sure.
Okay. The next one are the Warriors over the hill in terms of getting a chip. They just blew a 24-point lead last night that had me sick.
You have some money on that?
Yeah, right. That money line crazy.
What's your thoughts on them? Because they're looking a little bit. I don't know. They don't look the same. Like the old Warriors, they could put up 40 points in a quarter and hit 10-3. Like they don't look like that no more.
They are not the old Warriors. They are the old Warriors.
Yeah.
Right?
Damn.
Here's the thing. I, as a analyst, and it's tricky because I totally understand how my company works and which teams draw and which teams rate and blah, blah, blah. But I'm always looking for the next young squad. Like, I'm about it. Like, who finna change the tide? Who's finna hold the mantle moving forward?
It's a couple now.
Right. We got a few we could discuss. I was just in Golden State. They had San Antonio. It's a whole nother thing. What I do think of the Warriors is you cannot, and we kind of said it earlier, you cannot underestimate the cost of success. Them Bombers have probably, their core at least, has probably played in total basketball games, if you consider their postseason runs in consecutive years, another 3 seasons.
Facts.
Like, I'm just throwing that number out there. Somebody can check the math. But, like, the mileage on their bodies as that team was rock stars and the success is going to accumulate. And we certainly see it in the case of Clay coming off of all those injuries. Do I think they're going to be better than they are right now? Yeah. Do I think they're going to win a title this year? No. Has the window to me has closed if you have to be reliant on that core 3 in the way they were during their dynastic years. If Andrew Wiggins cannot get back to who he was when they beat Boston consistently, they out of luck.
It's a great analysis.
That's a great analysis.
This one is a little different, and I saw this on TikTok, right? So there's this guy, his name's Clay Travis, right? And he was talking about, he was putting up $1 million. I don't know. He's a radio host, I think. I guess they just give radio hosts $1 million. He must have a bag to be throwing $1 million.
It's just a few things.
So he was saying something about he would put up $1 million for a high school basketball team of his choosing against the WNBA champions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Chelsea Gray came out and she said, that guy's a dumbass. Pat Bev came out and he was like, he's on drugs. And I'm looking at it and this is my opinion, I'm leaning towards the woman because he's not just talking about any team. Like, he's talking about, like, household names, like Asia Wilson, like Candace Parker, like Kelsey Plum. You know what I'm saying? Like, bucket, like, people that I know them, like, to be bucket getters, right? So I just think the IQ, even the physicality, like, I watch Aerial Powers, right? She's one of my favorite people to watch on TikTok because she has a series where she just goes to gym and she busts dudes' asses. Like, they're physical, they push her around. And she
talk shit,
she used to playing with guys. Like, you grow up with that, right? So I'm like, I just feel like the WNBA champions would have so much just IQ, experience, skill, and these are still boys. But then I try to play devil's advocate, and I'm like, this is the ball is life in me, where I see like Zion when he was a kid, or like Cooper Flagg now, who's 6'10",
who guarding Cooper Flagg,
and I'm like, I don't know. I still lean towards the woman just because I've seen it. But what is your take on that? Because you watch so much basketball, so I want to hear like
your perspective,
educated perspective.
I'm not sure who the top boys high school team is, but the Las Vegas Aces as a collective are an absolute problem.
Unit.
That is a historic team. There's a reason that you had not seen a back-to-back champ in the WNBA in the past 20 years, 21, it might be 21, until they did it this past season. It's crazy though, Gio, if I'm honest. I really want to see this happen, right? Because I do buy that the women would win. But it is also ridiculous to think that from the guy that proposed this, you're going to get a winning outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It would be, oh, well, you're pros, you're supposed to win. Or if you lose, like, I told you boys.
You so.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
And so I really hate this. There's two things that are happening, I think, in the growth of women's sports. On the one hand, you hate a dialogue that is so just asinine and redundant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, as the sport grows, not that you don't get to control the dialogue, but like the fodder is good in a way.
Yeah.
For so long, you'd show up to a women's basketball game or WNBA game and like, it's thank you for coming from the athletes and coaches to the media because you're starved for coverage and opportunity. Now, as more coverage is coming, the assholes come too.
Yeah.
Right?
It's inevitable.
And so there's a part of me that's like, all right, we talking about it. Same kind of thing with the Final Four. I'm sitting in Dallas, y'all, and I had no idea that Twitter was blowing up over this whole thing with Angel and Caitlin.
Yeah.
Because in our meetings prior to the games, both of us told us how they played with their brothers, cousins, a bunch of guys, and trash talking is a thing.
Yeah.
So me watching, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is nothing.
That ain't nothing.
It's
yeah.
nothing.
Do you think that hurt her?
Who?
Angel Reese? Like the whole.
You see how many bags she got?
Oh no, for sure. No, I'm just saying. I'm talking about.
No.
But I'm talking about like. I think this is the first time I've ever seen like you mentioned all those names before of like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Becker. It's like those are like the most known women in women's basketball, and they're superstars, right? So when that happened, it was the most watched game heading into this summer. And then now, like, do you think like all that, the hype, the clout, like her doing that, like, do you think that hurt her?
In what way, Jarvis? No, is my first answer.
Well, yes, I mean, attention is good, but I just feel like her going into that summer, having all that hype, and then
because they lost and because she's missing from the team?
But they're going to blame her. They're going to blame her for that. I don't think she deserves that. I'm just saying they're going to blame her.
I think Angel's great. I think she's good.
For sure.
I think
there was just negative. I'm just saying there was just obviously a negative connotation around it. But if someone else did it, I don't think it would be a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
But she's very aware of that.
Absolutely.
And has to carry on and handle her business. We could get into the double standards of women, of black women, of queer women. You know what I'm saying? Like all of those things. But again, and this is where I always, when I'm having a conversation, I'm like, I have the capacity to hear you. I may or may not disagree. If you said to me, they lost that first game because their team got a bunch of NIL deals and they wasn't focused. All right. Like,
right.
Okay, it's the first game of the season. You don't think they're going to get better?
Absolutely.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's an easy and sort of lazy thing to blame it on, but there also could be some real truth to it.
Right.
But it's the first game of the season.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, again, we talked about NIL a little bit earlier. I think the capacity that these young people have, their bandwidth, do your thing. Do you think, especially for women in that space, because there is such a finite window if you are maximizing your earning potential as a collegiate athlete.
Absolutely.
You may or may not go on to the WNBA.
Right.
Get that money while you can.
That's for sure. And I also feel like that's just the way, like, where she's from, like she said, like, that's how you ball. Like,
how you play.
Yeah.
it's like you talk trash, like you bust somebody's ass, like that's just what it is. Like I feel like that's normal. Like,
right. And I gotta give credit to the handful of folks that when they got the entire backstory did apologize and acknowledge that, like, you can be a competitor and it's not cute. Like, playing basketball is not performing with the Rockettes and like being a ballerina. Like, there's a reason. If there's any place that isn't appropriate for a woman to talk trash and to do her thing and to own who she is, like, it's in that space.
Absolutely.
So to make sports delicate is like a joke. Now, that obviously was a different conversation and a different tenor. I think it was actually a far more healthier conversation than what this dude Clay Travis is trying to propose, because he's coming at it from a demeaning place, and that's very, very obvious.
crazy, yeah.
Very demeaning.
But at the same time, if Pat Beverly or whatever NBA player is talking about that and somebody listening is like, what is this dude talking about? And if it somehow brings you to, let me see how good these Las Vegas Aces are, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right,
Bring the attention.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
That's a fact. So our next question is one of our staple questions. And we've had some very good answers. So I'm just gonna ask away. If you had to describe your life in one word or phrase, what would you say? And you can't
Simple.
you can't use adversity. Okay, go ahead.
Simple.
Simple. Why?
I like it clean. I work. I love the people that I love. I have a good time. I don't do, where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't do fire. I don't do smoke. And my life is very simple.
I love that.
Quick and to the point.
Quick and to the point.
Simple.
Our last question that we always ask, this show is called Second Win, right? And if people didn't take away anything from everything we just talked about, we want them to take something away from this answer. So for anyone going through anything in life, or that wants to be the next you, or whatever is going through adversity, what advice would you give them to help them catch their second win?
That's a good question. I know that you hear this often, but it is so true. Keep going. You got to keep going. And I think what messes us up, I know it messed me up for a while, is the word should. I should be achieving. I should have. It should be this way. No, it is the way it is. Now keep going. And I think when we can let go of our master plans and allow ourselves to be flexible, pliable, and honestly, as you grow through that, get to the place where you enjoy the journeys, the highs and the lows, and understand that in every moment and every season there's a lesson, keep going and take those lessons with you, because if you stop, you're done, for sure.
Yeah.
What's the biggest lesson you learned?
It's not about me. I think that was, and this almost always on cue makes me a little bit emotional. When I came home after that second layoff, tail between my legs, so to speak, like so disappointed. I just knew for sure that I had hit my fast track. I wasn't going home. Like, it was up from here. It was national, blah, blah, blah. My cousin said to me, have you ever stopped to think that it's maybe not even about you? And it was like harrowing, maybe not be the right word. It was humbling. Because it was like, what do you mean? Like, I was doing X, Y, Z. Like, I was on the fast track. Like, this, that, then the other was happening. What do you mean? Like, this is happening to me. What do you mean it's not about me? And sure enough, over the next 18 months, that would prove to be accurate. And so I think when we are mindful that our world is not the world and that we are a piece of a much, much larger puzzle, you can allow yourself to be an instrument of goodness and an instrument of hope. So even now, sitting across from Stephen A., calling the game, whatever it is, I want to do an incredible job because I've worked very hard, and I want to make those around me and those that have supported me proud. But at the same time, I just happen to be the one that's up right now. It's not about me.
Damn, man, I love the way that you articulate and really say what you're thinking because I'm the type of person where I be thinking a million things, but sometimes it don't come out right. It feel like everything that you say come out right.
Poetic. That shit is so damn poetic.
Is poetic, man.
I have worked on it. I run my mouth for a living, so
that's a great lesson that you just said, and I'm gonna take that. Honestly, I'm gonna take that.
I mean, think about it, y'all. Like, we're here for whatever we get, whatever the average is, 82 years, whatever it is. And then it's going to keep moving.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, yes, I'm not saying that we shouldn't live lives of impact, that we shouldn't enjoy ourselves. But in the grand scheme of things, we can't take none of this with us.
It's a fact.
You can't take it with you when you die.
Hello?
So it's like, but I'm big on that too. It's like, what have you, I said this before, we shot a podcast early in our careers, and it was like, you know, if they can only remember me for this, or they can only remember you for you being an analyst, then I feel like I failed as a person. What have you done for other people that has nothing to do about with your career? Like your impact that you leave with people. When you die, you know, people are going to take those memories or things like Monica made me feel like this. No matter what you do for somebody, someone's always going to remember how that person made you feel.
100%. Shout out to Maya Angelou.
You did say that.
So it's like, you know, the impact you leave on people is so important. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're always talking about, man, just wanting to help people. We want more things so we can help other people. Selfishly, yes, we have goals and we're ambitious, but what can we do for someone else?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
For sure.
And not that we're all going to, like, solve all the world's problems.
For sure.
But I do think just a fuller life is keeping where you fit in all of it in perspective.
Absolutely.
Damn.
It's a beautiful thing. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Oh, Monica,
Hey, that joint was fire. I ain't gonna lie.
It's been a pleasure.
For real.
Thank you so much. For real.
Second Win family, go ahead and tell who you need to tell. Like, comment, subscribe. Go tell your pet fish. Go tell whoever
your auntie,
you need to tell.
You already know, man. Tell everybody. We had the great Monica McNutt. Please
brilliant.
Tune in. You watching Knick games, you're going to see our girl
Go
on there.
ahead and tune in.
Sure.
I've been peeping that joint all show. Hey, second